Today we're going to take a look at the Hoka Bondi 8, $165, out now. This giant plush shoe in its 8th iteration gets some additional smoothness and refinement. Please pardon the dirt in my fingernails. I was weeding the garden just before I shot the video. Good morning, everybody. Sam from Road Trail Run from the porch here. We're going to take a look at the Hoka Bondi 8 today. It is obviously a max cushion shoe, Hoka's original max cushion shoe, and kind of the one that set the tone for the whole max cushioning trend now 11 years ago, because I actually ran Boston in the very first version, the Bondi B. Having trained in it, but I probably should have worn the Convara because it's one big shoe to run a marathon in. But it is a very popular model, not only for daily training or slower recovery runs, but also for walking and just plain Cush. It has a 40 millimeter heel, 36 millimeter forefoot. In this version, it actually loses about 12 grams to come in at 10.72 ounces, or 303 grams in my US 8.5, so that's nice to see. Unfortunately, I did not run the Bondi 7 shown here, but in our written review, my fellow tester, Jeff Beck, will be comparing, as he has run the 7 and all the other predecessors. It gets a new engineered mesh. I'm going to tell you from the run how it fits, how it feels. Obviously, there is lots of room. It will come in not only double E wide, but 4E super wide. Man, those would be some big feet. It gets a memory foam collar here, and it has a gusseted, well-padded tongue. We're going to see how that all fits. Of particular note also, it gets a new lighter foam. I suspect this is the same foam as we've seen in a lot of the other 2022 Hokas. And I see a new geometry to the midsole here, more linear, and I hope that it also gets the newer rocker that we've seen in many of the Hoka, because I've often struggled with the knee lift of the earlier Hokas. It really requires some kind of vertical push off, and that's maybe why the original wasn't so great at Boston for me, as I got tired. But that new geometry here of the midsole sidewall, same general stack height, is of great interest. So we're going to take a look and see how that all pans out. There is also a slightly modified outsole. Here's a picture of the Bondi 7. So here's the Bondi 7 outsole shown. It looks like we have more coverage in the 8 and deeper decoupling grooves through the to the midsole, so that may help with the flexibility and the transitions. To be honest with you, since number 1, I don't think I've run a Bondi, since the Bondi B. So it'll be a little tough to compare to the 7, but I've outlined some of the changes. So now let's take it out for a run here, a first run here in Rye, and tell you how it all goes, fit-wise and ride-wise. Stay tuned. So I tried them on. So we don't get what's called a sloppy plush fit here. It's more a very secure plush fit. The mesh is very similar to what we're seeing in some of the other Hokas for this year, with a kind of dense but very thin mesh. You can see it's really quite thin but dense. The hold is really good. Lace up seems very easy. I can really feel the plushness of that memory foam and the soft tongue here. So let's take them out and see how they run, how they fit on the run, which is always kind of the real test.
So I would definitely call this a true to size fit. It's a broad volume shoe, but what's kind of neat and interesting is the mesh is very secure. So while it's broad, there's no sloppiness at the midfoot. You've got that gusset tongue, the heavily padded tongue too, so you're very well held. The decision to go to a wide may depend on your forefoot width more than anything else, because I think there's plenty of room at midfoot. And I would advise trying the normal one, understanding that you're going to get sort of not a soft kind of mushy fitting toe box, but a very secure one that's really quite broad. If anything, maybe a little more toe box height for me, right at the tip of the toe there. Heel hole very secure. No big elf thing here. We're kind of lower down, and that's appreciated. So let's give you some first impressions about the ride now.
So 2 runs so far, a progression 9:37 pace, about 5.5 miles, and a 4 mile run, a little bit slower, 10:20 pace. So kind of the ideal pace. So here are the first words that come to mind about the ride. I would say the new foam is livelier. It definitely has some really nice rebound to it. It's soft but not mushy. The second word that comes to mind is balanced. This is a 4 millimeter drop shoe, but I think the new geometry really helps keep it from feeling low heeled at slow paces. And the third thing that comes to mind is the geometry obviously has a much more easy to find rocker here than past Hokas. I can definitely feel some kind of roll off the toe here, even at slow paces. So it definitely isn't a burden to run because of the balance of the cushion, its springiness, no mushiness, and that kind of final roll. So where am I seeing the Bondi fitting in? Well, I guess I'm a bit surprised because I won't say I was dreading running in it, but it's quite a bit more fun than I expected so far. It's definitely a great shoe if you want a ton of cushion. We have that giant stack height in the front there, 36 plus, the heel 40. So you're just really plushly cushioned without it being overly soft. So if you want a ton of cushion for either because you might have some issues, knees and so on, it's a great choice. It's also for kind of the recovery runs, type runs, the slower runs, an excellent for choice, and for long runs if you don't mind the weight, because there is quite a bit of it. The platform here is very wide. That means that even though there's no real stability elements, it's also very stable, very consistent riding. So the fit, as I said, secure, quite broad, but secure. So you're not kind of slopping around. Relatively breathable. It's real humid today, but just really a fine upper. The Hoka uppers this year have been fantastic. We talked a bit about the memory foam, really holds the heel well in kind of a lower profile, which I kind of like better than sort of the elf shaped things. I was a bit skeptical about this tongue, but it seems to be working well. Maybe contributes a bit to being warm through there, but not an issue. Lace up, no issues. Haven't touched them since I first put them on. So the gusset, the mesh, the logos, the lacing, the eye stays all work really well. So obvious comparisons are things like the New Balance Fuel Cell Super Comp Trainer, which is a livelier shoe, a bit lighter, yet more cushion. This is kind of your more workman-like kind of thing. We're at 165. The New Balance is 180. You could also look at New Balance's Fresh Foam More V3. I found it really mushy, especially at slow paces. Really didn't come alive till faster paces. Here were definitely easier to run slow and has as much kind of front rebound. So Hoka's Bondi X, $200, so that's $35 more. It does have a carbon plate and that big outrigger heel. I'm going to pick the Bondi 8 here. I found the Bondi X very soft at the heel, kind of back weighted, even though the front plate give it some impulse. So if you need that big soft cushion, the Bondi 8 is just kind of a more reliable, kind of more conventional approach. The Endorphin Shift from Saucony. Well, that's kind of a higher performance take on the Max cushion, the firmer midsole, some light stability elements, rigid rocker profile, whereas here you'll see. So after about 10 miles, let me see if I can do it here, we have developed some flex to go with a rocker, which is good. I expect they'll get even more flexible, so that's good. I like a rocker with some flex in a shoe that doesn't have a plate. So we'll have our full multi-tester review of the Bondi 8 real soon. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great run.